प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुःखमः। The eighth chapter has now brought us to the answer that Sri Krishna gave to the seventh question by Arjuna. As we have made it very clear, these seven questions arose from certain technical words or expressions that Sri Krishna had used towards the end of the seventh chapter. Picking from there, Arjuna asks, tell me what is Brahma, what is Adhyatma, what is Karma, what is Adidaiva, what is Adiyajna. And the seventh question is, at the time of dying, how do we know you? Prayana kale katham neyaha asi. Therefore, we have Lord Krishna going into relatively more details when it comes to answering this question. First of all, in the verses we saw, in the fifth verse he says, if at the time of dying, antakale, a seeker remembers the Supreme God, Lord Krishna uses the first person pronoun, Mahameva Smaran. There are a million things in the world that you and I can think of at the time of dying. But leaving all of them, if we lift our mind to contemplate on God, or going by the Advaita Vedanta interpretation, if you and I can let go of our attachment to the individuality, the personality, the little self in us, and stay as just pure awareness. Let go of the self, stay as the pure self. That would mean the same thing. Kalevaram mukva, leaving the body, yaprayati, whoever thus departs from here, saha madbhavam yati, nastyatra samshaya, Vaishnavam Tattvam Yati. The word Vaishnava also, for dualists, Dvaitis, it means Vaikuntha, Sri Vishnu's place. For Advaitis, the word Vishnu means Vyapaka, all pervasive. Advaita accommodates Dvaita. If someone takes the meaning as reaching Vaikuntha, we have no problem with it. But we say the ultimate is to wake up from the realm of names and forms. Neither God nor we have actually any form from a higher point of view. The truth of the existence of Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara is something that is without name and form, Nirguna, Nirakara, Ashabdaha, Asparshaha, Arupaha, Agandaha, and so on, as the Upanishads also say. No Sparsha, no Shabda, no Rupa, no Rasa, no Gandha, and so on. So Madbhava also can mean to reach our true home where we never came under any limitation. In the sixth verse, which also we saw in the last class, Sri Krishna gives the general principle. The earlier he said, those who think of God reach God. But in more general terms, whatever one thinks, one will become that in the next life. Yam yam vapi smaran bhava. Bhava is some form of existence, some entity, something that is. Yam yam bhavam smaran. Attaching our mind to anything. Tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam eva eti. One goes to that domain. So when thinks of money, we are not saying he becomes money. He goes into a certain next birth where he gets ample opportunities to earn money, to spend money, to hoard money, to contribute to the wealth of the society, and so on. Therefore, as we use the word deep driving desire, D, the deep driving desire that manifests at the time of dying shapes the next life too. Sada tadbhava bhavitaha. In the Bhāshya by Sri Shankaracharya we saw, giving a more traditional meaning, Bhashyakara says, Yam yam smaran, whatever one thinks of, implies devata vishesham. People, depending on their maturity, think of different forms of God, or even if they think of Shiva or Vishnu, their imagination about Vishnu or Shiva could be very limited. And therefore, the on the surface, it is Vishnu. But an advanced devotee thinks of Mahavishnu as all inclusive. Mahavishnu alone is the truth. Whereas a less advanced and rather immature devotee, whose feelings for Mahavishnu may be great and intense, but may look at Mahavishnu as up there and I am down here, and Mahavishnu blesses me with a better body, better talent, better opportunities, better rise, happier life next time, and so on. So this immature devotee also may go to Vaikuntha for a little while, then is born again as a human being. Devata Vishesham, Chintayan Tyajati, Prana Viyoga Kali, Antakale means at the time of letting go the physical body. That's expressed in formal language when the pranas leave the body. Pranas actually carry the subtle body over to wherever the destination may be. Tameva smritam bhavam eva eti na anyam kaunteya was made clear. Smaryamanataya. What makes the final journey so decided by the last thought? Yes, the last thought is not just a thought. The last thought represents a whole lot of thoughts of the same kind. Millions of times this man or this woman had thought, let's say, of money. How nice it would be if I have access to more avenues of making money. So Shankara says at the end of his commentary on the sixth verse, Abhyastaha, Abhyasa we know, Abhyastaha, a particular thought which was practiced, which was brought repeatedly into one's consciousness has the strength to decide, to determine the direction in which the Jivatma proceeds after his death. Now we enter the seventh shloka, and Acharya Shankara helps us connect to the next shloka, saying, Yasmad evam antya bhavana dehantara praptau karanam. Yasmad, because evam, in this manner, antya bhavana, towards the end, while we are dying, which means we are leaving this body, antya bhavana, the last thought, the last feeling, the last emotion, the last engagement of our head and heart, dehantara prapto karanam, becomes the cause for attaining the next body. Which kind of body, which kind of environment, which kind of family, all is decided by that one thought. One thought decides everything. Is it not unfair? No, because that one thought, we already said, is not really one thought. It is actually the expression, it is the representative of million thoughts that this person had, and therefore it is more symbolic. What he or she had thought of, what he or she had desired, valued over all his life, or for 30 or 40 years in succession, decides the next life. Therefore, yasmat evam tasmat, therefore, tasmat comes in the shloka itself. We read the seventh shloka. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu manusmara yuddhacha mayyarpita mano buddhihi mame vaishyasya samshayah mameva eshyasi. You want to come to me. You want to come to infinitude, because any other life has limitations. You want to come to the infinitude, then Sri Krishna could have said, Tasmad antakale ma manusmara. Think of me while dying. But as the logic goes, the ability to think of God or that infinite reality rises in us if we had sarveshu kaleshu, the last 30, 40, 50 or 60 years. Of course, the length really doesn't matter, but length is not totally out of the scene also. So we can't say how many years. Somebody in his last 1 year, let's say, sincerely thought of God a lot. There are some people in whose life a turning point comes. I met a man once who was already 65 or so. That time I was below 50. And I came to know that he was going to play tennis every afternoon. He was a retired physician, some cardiologist or something. He says, I never miss my tennis. At 4 o'clock or so in the afternoon, he would go play. I appreciated his regularity. I said, you perhaps are a very disciplined person. 7 days a week, unless you are traveling for some purpose, you play tennis. He laughed. You are calling me disciplined? I was one of the most undisciplined people all my life. Student days, professional days, and so on. But you say that is what from last 1 year. Because there were some health issues, and then doctor after doctor warned me, unless you do regular exercise, and then retired also, somehow this happened. So from the time he was 64, he had become so regular in tennis. Otherwise, he confessed before me. He confessed in one-to-one submission I have lived a very undisciplined life, whether it is alcohol or cigarette or they give a list of things. I did not live in a proper way. For last 1 year, I'm regular in tennis. I'm yet to get going in spirituality. You must help me, he said. Whatever it is, I sort of appreciated his regularity in tennis. But next year I got the news. He died. I don't know whether on the tennis field or at home, but he passed away. That 1 year of regularity did not save him. 64 years he was living in a haphazard manner, eating whatever came his way, overeating, over drinking, and a pleasure-driven life. Though he was a well-established cardiologist or something, he was able to run that show. But his personal life, 24-hour life, private life especially, was not all that orderly. Therefore, I guess the very following year, he had a massive heart attack and passed away. So let's not wait. Let's not say, okay, if I'm going to live for 79 years, I will see that the last 2 years I'll do remembering God. Sri Krishna says, don't regret the way you lived so far, but don't delay anymore. Starting from now, Sarveshu Kaleshu, day and night, whenever you are able to think of God, lift your mind to the contemplation of the infinite truth, Mam Anusmara. And Bhagavad Gita never asks us to leave our duties. Anusmara, think of God. Yudhyacha is do your duty. Yudhya, in a specific context of Arjuna, was fight this war. But otherwise, Yudhya, for which modern Sanskrit would say Yudhyasva, Yudhyasva, Gita takes a little liberty, as though Yudh is a Parasmaipadi Dhatu, the word used is Yudhya. Actually, it is an Atmanipadi root, therefore, the imperative mood, second person singular, should have been Yudhyasva. Elsewhere it is followed. Tasmatva muttishta yasho labhasva. We find a shloka in the 11th chapter. Yasho labhasva. So swa has to come in Atmanipadi roots. It should have been Yudhyasva. But Veda Vyasa took liberty at places. Or as is the case with many languages, certain times the words would have been used in some way, and over a length of time, after some centuries, the words get narrowed down to certain more specific form of usage. So, in the good old times, probably, Yudh was both Parasmaipadi and Atmanipadi. But going by today's grammar, this is Harsha Prayoga, this is Chandasa Prayoga, this is a case of liberty that Vedavyasa takes with language. Sri Krishna makes a very general revelation here. Mayi arpita mano buddhihi. Whoever offers their mind and intellect to me, what we call head and heart. Buddhi is head and hridaya or manaha, emotions, is heart. Mano buddhi, heart and head, offer to me, to God. Mameva eshyasi, asamshaya. Adi Shankara explains, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. Shankaracharya adds quickly an adverb. Remember me how? Yatha Shastram. Think of me, remember me as guided by the Shastra. Every now and then there is some over enthusiastic person who takes liberty with the scripture, gives his own interpretation, her own meanings. Sometimes their books become bestsellers also. Sometimes this mad world welcomes books which are not really aligned with the proper scriptural tradition. But this world is like that. The person who writes a commentary on the Gita, taking a lot of liberty, may have some other factors which are very attractive about him. He may be giving a lot of examples of modern times, how people undergo stress and strain at home, at work, and so on. So, some talent, some articulation on the part of the author make his book sell in large numbers, while somebody else has written a book on the same matter, doing much greater justice to the age-old tradition. That book may not sell well. So we must never judge anybody from criteria like how many copies of his book are sold. The best is you read his book. Probably this book, which is not so well known, could throw light on your life, your sadhana. Shankaracharya was a custodian of the traditional scriptures. Therefore, he says, Yatha Shastram Anusmara. Think of Mahavishnu, for example, using dhyana shlokas such as Shantakaram Bhujagasayanam Padmanabham Suresham. That is Yatha Shastram. Do not think of Mahavishnu as per some fancy of yours. Mahavishnu sitting on a bench and watching some cricket match and so on. Think of Mahavishnu lying, reclining on Adishesha, and Goddess Mother Lakshmi is by his feet. Adishesha, the serpent, is providing shade to Mahavishnu. And as that sloka says, Mahavishnu is that principle meditated upon by yogis. Yogi Vihi Dhyana Gamyam or Yogi Hrit Dhyana Gamyam. Vande Vishnum Bhava Haram Sarva Lokaikanatham. Yatha Shastra. In the Vedas also there are wonderful mantras. There is a whole Narayana Sukta. Separately there is a Vishnu Sukta. And tips are given on how we may meditate on Vishnu. And like we said about Yudhya, literally Yudhya means fight. But actually what it means is do what your duty is. This is fortified by two words from Adi Shankara. Swadharmam Kuru. Yudhya means Yudham Kuru, as applicable to Arjuna at this point of time, but in a more general way, as applicable to all of us under the sun, it is Swadharmam. Find out your Swadharma and be loyal, be devoted to your Swadharma. That way of living, that kind of action, that kind of engaging, where you feel from the bottom of your heart, this is where I belong. Whether I get much reward or not, whether people praise or not, I like to live like this, I like to do this, and so on. Where doing something or living in a certain way is itself a reward. Outer recognition is not an issue. That is called Swadharma. Somebody might have gone and got many degrees in medicine or technology or accounts, finance, history. But Down the road, that person realizes he feels so comfortable singing. And whether when he sings, it draws thousands of people to the audience or 10 or 12 people, doesn't matter to him. He enjoys singing and learning more and more of music. Then to sing is his swadharma. Swadharmam kuru. Mai vasudeve arpite manabuddhi yasya saha tamayarpita manobuddhi. When anyone becomes like that, mameva eshyasi. Such a person comes to me, offering all that we are to God, surrendering to God, we reach God. Yata smritam, because we thought of God so much with all love, and we reach God. Asamshayaha, na samshayaha atra vidyate. And then the word abhyasta had come before. Sri Krishna uses the word here, the Gita Shloka. Eighth Shloka is of great value to you and me to practice spirituality. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. Lord Sri Krishna does not confuse people saying, well, your awakening takes place whenever it takes place. It's just a one moment affair. You just live the way you like. But then when it hits you, when it comes into you, you will know to say like this and to dismiss time, to dismiss techniques, to dismiss practices out of context, in some context which are different from the high plateau context of someone who already has seen through the finite limitations of the world. Such a person, it may be said, don't do anything, just to be, it will happen. But for vast majority of us, if we don't do anything, we will very soon find our slipping, going down and down into a very worldly life. Eating, drinking, making merry, thinking of God, to think gold, thinking of wealth and so on. That's what will happen. Therefore, abhyasa is needed for very lofty people who also had done abhyasa at one time, but now they are able to conduct advanced spiritual exercises like gently observing the self in movement and asking the question, who am I? Am I this? Am I this? It's extremely difficult to do it, but you can, must. For those for whom it is unthinkable, Abhyasa Yoga. We know Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and many kinds of yogas. What is this Abhyasa Yoga? If you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna lovingly advises, especially his householder devotees. He says, there is something called Abhyasa Yoga. Get into it. Whether it's karma or bhakti or yoga or jnana, finally, there is a long phase in spiritual sadhanas where one has to use willpower. One has to say, I will do this today. I will not miss this particular japa or dhyana, scriptural study, or some karma, or some serving the poor, the needy. So there are many good things and one has to do practice. Otherwise, all that one had deeply understood in one sense just will vanish from one's mind. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Let's read the eighth verse. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. Chetas means mind. Chetasa, by the mind. And there is an interesting adjective to it. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa. With that mind which has been sharpened, which has been made purer, which has been made more focused on any job that is taken up. By such a mind, Abhyasa yoga yuktena manasa chetasa, Shankaracharya says, Abhyasa yoga is characterized by tulya vritti, tulya pratyaya, avritti lakshana. Tulya means comparable. So if you are thinking about Mahavishnu, you think of Mahavishnu's form, Mahavishnu's gunas, Mahavishnu's qualities, Mahavishnu's Vaikuntha. Maybe you think about Mahavishnu with Lakshmi Devi by his side. So they are all Tulya Pratyaya. They are all comparable. They are not absolutely identical, but they are all related to each other. Even you think of a city like Mumbai, one fine evening you are sitting by a bench in some park in one of the suburbs, doesn't matter. You say, well, I have been living in Mumbai last 22 years. And though it has its problems, I like this city, you say. Then your mind goes to Nariman Point, the gateway of India, the Sea Link, the Kamala Nehru Park, and various offices, the Princess Street, the Dalal Street, and the suburbs, the pagoda, Vipassana pagoda near Borivali or so. Across the length and breadth of Mumbai, of many places, and where with your family had gone. So they are all Tulya Pratyaya. Suddenly in between you don't dump Bombay and think about Hyderabad's Charminar or think of Kashi Vishwanath Mandir in Varanasi. And then it becomes Atulya. They are not comparable. Tulya means comparable. Tulya Pratyaya Avritti Lakshana Vilakshana Pratyaya Anantarita. Vilakshana Pratyaya Anantarita. So Antaritaha means coming in between. Anantaritaha means dissimilar thoughts do not come in. Like I gave the example of Kashi or Hyderabad, Chennai or Jaipur. You are thinking of Mumbai only. And that is Tulya Pratyaya Avritti. When Ramakrishna Mission Swamiji wrote a little article on mind control or something like that, where he gave an illustration using some kind of mathematical expression. When you sit for contemplation on God, if there is thought of God, again another thought of God, G, 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 but in between a thought of the world came. You said Vishnu, you said Narayana, you said Sri Krishna. When you said Sri Krishna, your mind went to Sri Krishna Bhavan, a very popular restaurant in Bangalore. And then you talked about especially the ghee roasted dosa in Sri Krishna Bhavan. New Sri Krishna Bhavan. I don't know, it may be so everywhere. In Bangalore, More or less every old hotel also has a new revision, revised one. New Sri Krishna Bhavan, new Parijat, new something. So you started with G, 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 G. Then you took the name, or you took the name is not correct English, they say. You recited the name Sri Krishna. And then the mind went to Sri Krishna Bhavan, Dosa, and so on. Then the Swami who wrote the article said, put a W. Your thought went to the world. And W, W, W. And you say, what's happening? You bring yourself back. Hari, Panduranga, Vithala, Achyuta, Keshava, Ananta, back to God. G, 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 G. Then again you may slip into some words thoughts. W, W, G, G, W. So he narrated how the mind behaves. So Tulya Pratyaya means succession of thoughts which could be marked G. And Vilakshana Pratyaya is thoughts that have to be marked W. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa, with the mind endowed with the momentum, with the energy, with a certain extraordinary quality of staying put with God-related thoughts, with that kind of mind, and to emphasize it further, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Na anyagamina. That mind doesn't go anywhere else. Even if a memory arises of the restaurant Krishna Bhavan, new Krishna Bhavan, you just ignore that thought. You stay with God. Paramam Purusham Divyam Ati Partha Nuchintayan. O Partha, O son of Pritha, Kunti, in this way, if we can train our mind, training, and training takes time. Therefore, practices and techniques and methods all are on the axis of time. For days, for weeks, for years, we could practice. And then, when our mind changes, we reach the Supreme Purusha, Paramam Purusham, Divyam, divine. We reach Yati. Yati means one goes to. Kincha abhyasa yoga yuktena Mai chitta samarpana vishaya bhute ekasmin. When the mind dwells on one principle, Shankara Bhāshya says, and what is that principle? Me. Sri Krishna says, when somebody thinks of me, because I am the one, chitta samarpana vishaya. I am the one where chitta, a seeker's mind, ought to be offered, samarpana. I am the object of such adoration by a seeker's mind. Ekasmin, on that one chosen form, name, one chosen theme, when the mind dwells, Tulya Pratyaya Avritti Lakshana and Vilakshana Pratyaya Anantaritaha Abhyasa. So, Abhyasa Avritti Lakshana. The shortest definition here is Avritti Lakshana Abhyasa. If you ask, Avritti means repetition. Repetition of what? Pratyaya Avritti Lakshana. Repetition of thought. Oh, that means thought should come again and again. It doesn't matter any thought. No, not any thought. Tulya Pratyaya Avritti Lakshana Abhyasa. This is the short definition, the essence of the long definition. Chitta Samarpana Vishaya Bhute Ishware Ekasmin Tulya Pratyaya Avritti Lakshana Vilakshana pratyaya anantaritaha abhyasaha, like that. More dimensions are shown, but essentially you don't have to know much Sanskrit or much English or much any language for essence, for grasping the essence. Have repeated thoughts of God to the exclusion of other thoughts. Sacha abhyasaha yoga. That practice itself becomes a yoga. Don't have to worry whether it is karma or bhakti, yoga or jnana. Call it abhyasa yoga. Abhyasa yogena yuktam tatraiva vyaprutam. The mind is again and again engaged. I once met a second year engineering student in Bangalore. I had gone to some family where this boy, who was not their son but their son, they wanted that boy to meet me because he was into spirituality. And I went and they said, "Oh, please come, we would want this Divakar to meet you." I had to wait 10 minutes because when I went there, they said Divakar is sitting upstairs and in any moment come down. We have told him today Swamiji is coming. He said he is also eager to meet you. He will come. But he's doing some japa. Some japa. I said, oh, he's doing japa at 5:30. Divakar does japa morning, afternoon, evening, night. And when he goes to the engineering college, in between, suppose there is no class during a certain period, he finds some quiet corner in the college premises also and does japa. When I met later, after 10 or 15 minutes, he came down from the upstairs room and, of course, shared some spiritual thoughts. And then he said, when we do abhyasa, should we not keep away from people? Should we not refuse to meet people? And he said he does that. In the college, once the classes are over, he runs home, washes his feet, washes his hands, and if his aunt gives him a cup of tea, drinks it, no talking, and says, "Auntie, I will do some practice." Goes upstairs, taking the japamala. Terrific. Young boy. I don't know, lost touch with him now. Or other day I met the aunt, I could have asked her, where is the worker? What is he doing? Whether he took a proper job after completing engineering, or he joined some Ramakrishna mission or Chinmaya mission or Hare Krishna, I'll find out. But look at it, as Sri Krishna says, Sri Shankaracharya says, Tatra eva vyaprutam yoginaha cheta na anyagamina na anyatra vishayantare gantum shilamasya iti nanyagami. Nanyagami. Anyagami goes other places. Gam gacchati, gami, the one that goes. Paramam niratishayam purusham divyam divi surya mandale bhavam. In the upasanas, though the supreme truth otherwise has no location, it's all pervasive. Everything is in it rather than we saying the supreme Purusha is in this or that place. Every place is in him, but for upasanas, when our mind is not so mature, philosophically not so mature, we need an alamban. We take the support of a certain visualization. So, Divi Surya Mandale Bhavam, that which is in the orb of the sun, so meditating upon it, He Partha, Anuchintayan, Shastra Acharya Upadesham, Anudhyayan, Ityat. So as the mind becomes more cooperative, use that mind, use that sharpened tool to reflect on the teachings of the scriptures, teachings of the teacher. शास्त्रस्य च आचार्यस्य च upadesham anudhyayan. Dhyayan means meditating. Anudhyayan, meditating, or contemplating upon it repeatedly. Thus, some of these shlokas are great inspiration and wonderful reminders to you and me not to waste our energy in hundreds of things and then miss out on sadhana. Therefore, the shlokas, while the context may be of what we may do during death, the shloka has great relevance to how we live at any time, not just at the time of dying. And after this, Lord Krishna gives us some pointers to that Parama Purusha. For the eighth verse used the expression Paramam Purusham or Purusham Paramam Yati. So contemplating the Supreme Being, we reach the Supreme Being, but how do we appreciate the Supreme Being? So certain pointers are given of what the Supreme Being, the ultimate truth, the truth that liberates us is. That is given in the next sloka. Let's see in the next class. Next Wednesday morning in India, next Tuesday evening in the West. Harihi Om, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.